Check, check. Hello, everybody. Welcome to tonight's live stream, Sublime Text number 93. If the title in the window that I have over there on my laptop is correct in that it is a weird time of year. It's 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and it's actually daylight outside. I have the window open behind the monitor. I think I mentioned this last stream. It's actually light outside and not dark. It's a very weird situation. I hope everybody had a great last week. Hello, Ayush. Welcome to the stream. I hope you had a great day. And hello, sir. The dog has decided that I have stayed seated long enough for him to come and hang out with us. I thought we might spend this evening chatting, answering questions that people might have. Like, for example, if Ayush has a particular question that you might like to ask here. You mentioned being excited about popping into the stream. We can cover all of that sort of stuff. And I have a variety of things laying around in my user package in Sublime Text, a lot of which are plugins that have been written because people asked questions on the forum or Stack Overflow or stuff, and some of them perhaps could be included in the Scraps repository. And Joseph Lyons, hello. Yeah, it is the almighty me. Tremble in my defense. I was left unattended. And unsupervised. That's usually when I get up to my most shenanigans. How are you doing tonight, sir? Hope you're having a great day, or had a great day. You can always never anticipate what time zone people might be in. Except that for people in Europe, it's currently 4 o'clock in the morning, so you have to be a pretty big Sublime Text fanatic indeed to show up in one of these streams. But it has been known to happen. So I was just going over a few tweets that have come in regards to the sweepstakes, which we are currently running. And according to some very rough statistics that I gathered a little bit earlier in the day, so numbers, not entirely spot on accurate here, or I can't guarantee that they are because stuff has happened since I gathered these. Currently, I can report that there are 119 entries for the Sublime Text licenses, encompassing 58 distinct entrants based on their YouTube, Twitter, or their Twitter handles, which would tend to indicate that some people might not realize that they can be putting their name in more than once. And for Sublime Merge, there are currently 13 entrants with 33 entries, so competition is going to be a little tighter on that one. And my rough statistics indicate that people have clicked the link, the bit.ly version of the link that I put in my tweets, 493 times. That doesn't count all of the links because some places and some people have been tweeting out the unadorned, untracked link. Not that I'm really trying. I wanted to gauge relative interest. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're on the East Coast, aren't you? Yeah. A lot of people are. I tend to get a lot of people from the East Coast and a lot of people from India and the places where it's currently in the morning. Over the last week, those are clicks on links for the last week, by the way. I have gotten 47 additional YouTube subscribers and 90 Twitter followers, and 2 updates on Reddit. So I am giving up on Reddit no matter where I post the link or how I post the link. The Reddit gods do not want anybody to be talking about giveaway, I guess, except on our giveaways where there are approximately 900 entries every quarter second. So the chances of anybody actually seeing anything in there seem kind of forlorn, if you will. I've never been a big fan of Reddit. I tried real hard to get into helping people on Reddit, and it is just, I don't know that it is necessarily for me. There's still another week. It'll be up until the 26th at 9 o'clock my time in the morning that entries are allowed in. And the tentative plan is in next week's stream right here in this time slot. If all goes well, we do the drawings live here right during the stream. I got another day or two to try and figure if I can pull that off. I got to find time to do some test runs because I don't want to say that I'm going to do it and then, screw the pooch on actually pulling it off. Some preparation is probably in order for something like that. But without further ado, you're starting the day with the stream? Hey, that's something that Ashwin does sometimes as well. Well, wake up, have some breakfast, pop in and say hi on a stream here and on Twitch as well. I think everything is grooving the way that it should be according to things. I'm almost sure that no matter how many times I click the button, posting links will not work in this chat. It doesn't show me. It doesn't show anybody. If it shows you when you send a link and it just doesn't go anywhere, let me know. But I think it's just eating links entirely. It's not supposed to. I have no problem with people sharing links. So if you don't already know, and if the bot is currently connected to the chat, it will respond to this by telling you the link to my Discord, in which case you could pop in there and leave a message. And if you do that and share a link in the Discord, assuming the bot will notice it and say something, it can be kind of slow sometimes. If not, I'll just post it manually. There we go. Thank you, Nightbot. Wakey. If you would like to share a link with the chat and you try to share it and it doesn't work, which is mostly likely, if you're not already in the Discord, click the link right there we go. It's mirrored in my screen. You can drop something in the chat section of the Discord and then let me know here, because I tend to ignore the red dot of messages in Discord during live streams unless somebody tells me that there's something I should probably be looking at there. And with that, let's go ahead and press the magic button. I did it. I pressed the button. It's magic. So this is Sublime Merge, one of the things you can win in the giveaway. I've got 3 licenses to this bad boy to give away, thanks to the awesome Sublime HQ and Dylan as well, who's one of the lead developers at Sublime HQ, as I'm led to believe was instrumental in the recommendation that these licenses be added to the giveaway. And of course, I'm also giving away 3 licenses to Sublime Text as well. Those would all be full personal licenses, complete with the 3 years of updates that you would get. So if you don't already have a license for Sublime Text, you could win one here. If you already have one, but it's 4 years old or more than 3 years old, and you're probably going to have to do an upgrade, this is a great chance to win one. And Stephanie Kelly, hello and welcome to the stream. Hey, did you tear yourself away from pew-pewing people? Or Minecrafting, as the case may be? I should invite you to my my Minecraft world sometime, and you can see how nerds spend all of their time gathering resources and building farms, but not actually doing anything with any of them. But man, do I have a lot of stone. Now, I could call you Tater, if you would prefer. I'm totally cool with that, but that is what your name is there. So I try to go with the thing. What are you doing up this late? Shouldn't you be sleeping? And I didn't hear Jadles. He asked you if you made a decision on the new job yet, but I didn't hear or see if you said anything on that one. So if you're willing to share that sort of thing, I'm interested in knowing if you decided to take the job. I also know Jadal's name as well, due to the magic of something I did. I can't quite remember what it was, but it's something that you could do, and then you also would know the secret name of the Jadals. I feel like I'm in the select few. Thank you, Nightbot, for being Johnny on the spot, talking about the thing I was just talking about a couple of minutes ago. It's going to be an interesting decision. I think, let's see, I have subscribed to him, so I'm sure you've done that. That's not going to tell you anything because it's Twitch. I am a member of his Patreon, but I don't think that is disclosed there. I'm gonna say that I learned about it in response to God, I'm not sure if I donated money, it was that, but otherwise it was stream gifts when I bought Waffles, the cheese cookies and the bear hat for Jadles to wear. One of those things when invoices came back had actual names on it. But I can't quite remember which one it was. It's been a while now. Sworn to secrecy. Except that if you click enough buttons and do enough stuff, eventually it might also let you know. Terminal, hello, welcome to the stream, sir. As you can see, we're totally looking at Sublime Merge at the moment, and theoretically going over some plugins that are being laying around inside of my user package for forever. Perhaps looking at them, seeing what people think, seeing if you think that they might be useful for you, for others, for learning purposes, for inclusion in the Scraps repository. Indeed, yes. We were just discussing how there's a good friend of ours, the Jadles, on Twitch, where I also stream. If you follow me on Twitch, then you know that the pre-stream music is a song made by Jadles. I listened to it to death. I still do. And he graciously allowed me to use it as my pre-stream music. I know the secret name of the Jadles. And to connect that to the channel here where we do Sublime Text related things, I also know the secret name of Fichtfall as well, assuming I'm pronouncing that correctly. Mike, hello, aka McGriddles, right? I think I might be remembering something this time. How is everybody's Friday going? Except for Tater, who's... It's not currently, did I say Friday? I probably meant to say Tuesday, but it's her Wednesday because it is ridiculously early in the morning. I had a not too bad of a day. Yeah, No, I'm just sort of, you might notice my wrists are bare. The magic of high technology in our society, I had to take my watch off my wrist and plug it in to charge it up. And as a result, I've lost all contact with a lot of, I can't tell the date anymore unless I interact with the thing at the top of the screen. I can tell that it's currently this. So yeah, it's currently Tuesday. 4:17 a.m. to be precise. It is currently 8:17 p.m. for me here and 11:17 p.m. See, I probably said that time wrong too. I'm having a heck of a day. I'll tell you what though, there was a meeting that's supposed to happen every single day, and it didn't happen today, and I was happy about that because who wants a daily Scrum meeting where people just complain about stuff all the time and never actually provide an update? But it always makes me slightly nervous when management cancels a meeting that's an ongoing thing because it makes me think that they have some nefarious plan. But that was sort of a fun thing, except that today was the first day that my wife was doing a work from home as a little bit of a test of some stuff. And I've told her that I have this daily meeting that tends to go on for 1.5 to 2 hours every day. And of course, the first day that she's working from home, no such meeting. So I was very tempted to just put the headset on my head and talk to myself for a while to make it seem like I was actually having a meeting so it doesn't seem like I'm lying. Retro, you say? I'm not sure what it was that I said when you said that. Evil plans behind closed doors? Oh. Gotcha. Yeah, it was and another odd thing about this was that because there wasn't a meeting, this is supposed to be the meeting where we check in with stuff. There's a spreadsheet that my boss uses to track, and all the managers do to track the project, with tasks, their start date, end date, on time, stuff like that. And she needs to provide an update to her managers, but we weren't having a meeting, so we needed to fill in our stuff. But for some reason, and I don't understand why, it wasn't enough to just email her an update so she could update the page. What she did was she copied the part of the spreadsheet out that represents the current projects, pasted it into an email, and then alphabetized all of the team members' names and told us to one at a time. The first person replies to her mail, the second person replies to that person's mail, and so on down the line. And for each person, update the email with your information so that when it got to the end, and after I did it, because my name is alphabetically last, then she would just be able to take that information and copy it back in. It's the dangest thing I've ever seen. Didn't work out for her, though. Oh, I get what you're saying. Yeah, we just call them scrum meetings. We don't actually talk about anything that's in any way helpful. Like, we just mostly complain about how the timelines of the project are such that nothing is ever. It's never going to happen in the time frame that they say it's going to happen in. So basically, we just grumble with each other because we're the only ones that will listen when we say that we're overworked and the timelines are crazy. Every now and then someone might throw in something like, yeah, the database thing will be done, or something like that. I think Scrum meetings are supposed to go 15 minutes and not 2 hours, though. Funny side note on this is that the reason we have to have daily 2-hour meetings is because people were unhappy that the project wasn't moving fast enough. So clearly the fastest way to get something done is to take away even more time from developers. Managers are weird sometimes, don't you know? In absence of any questions that anybody might have related to things, and if you joined the stream late, I can reveal that as of a little bit earlier today, when I synced down the list of all tweets for the giveaway, there are currently, and I have to scroll because it won't all fit on the screen at one time, 119 entries across 59 distinct entrants for Sublime Text and 33 entries across 13 unique entrants on Sublime Merge. And I have received somewhere on the order of almost 50 new YouTube subscriptions, which I think, if I was to look at the graph, is a higher than normal growth rate, which is super exciting. Yeah. Yeah, I know, right? This all came about because of another project that we were working on that actually did Scrum stuff. And those meetings actually were mostly, 15. Well, I mean, they say they were like 15 minutes. If they're supposed to be 5, no. Nobody's allowed to just say, I'm on time or I'm not on time. Stuff is just ridiculous that way. But this particular one, too many people are allowed to talk, I think, is the issue. I mostly mute my microphone and then continue working anyway, listen to see if somebody says my name, and then say, sorry, I didn't hear that. You were breaking up, because it's a Zoom meeting. Then they repeat what it was that they said, and I can answer their question. I think this is a side effect of having a company that is primarily managers, and then there's like 6 developers at the bottom of the pile. With all the people that are up there, everybody's managing other managers and trying to direct the project, and nobody's giving any time to anybody to get it done. And thank you so much. Yes, the number of subscribers is currently 1,699. How exciting is that? Which is interesting to me. I'm going to say this because I hit 1,000 subscribers and the watch time that I needed to monetize the channel and be part of the YouTube Partner Program right around the first of the year. Can't remember what my subscriber count was at that point. It was the watch time that was on the build, but I think the subscription rate has picked up somewhat as of late, with the magic of Sublime Text 4 and stuff. So hey, and well, thank you. So that is some exciting stuff. And, my Twitter following is like all the way up to, I received 90 Twitter followers as well, which was part of the reason for the giveaway. The larger reason why it's happening on Twitter is because that's just the easiest way to do something like this. But also, I was hoping to gain my following just a little bit there to help spread the information that I share when I point out that there's a new video. Hopefully that gets things going, because I would love for more people to know about Sublime Text and all the cool stuff that you can do with it. Why, even Sticker Monster mentioned earlier today. That's somebody that Tater will know, but that's not a name that's probably going to make a lot of sense to anybody else. Said that she is giving Sublime Text a try as well. So maybe she'll show up in the comment section or in one of these live streams or something. There's so much stuff in here that I can only tangentially remember what some of this stuff actually was intended to be for in the first place. Let's click on this. Oop. Nope, not that one. There we go. That's the one we're looking for. Let's see. Now, you may remember a video on nested. The video that appeared on the channel must have been about a month ago now or so. Somebody had a question related to this snippet that is a gigantic C program and wanting to inject it as a snippet, but with a lot of this stuff folded up. And interestingly enough, this person had the right idea for how to automate something like this, in that the idea was that if some text is selected, you can fold the selected text. So what they did was take all of the part that they were interested in not seeing and wrap it in fields, like $1 wrapping up to about there, and $2 being this part, so that the snippet would be automatically selecting text, and then they could tab through and do the folding. But the part that was actually missing that they didn't realize that they could do is make a macro that does that very thing for you, that injects the snippet and then calls fold and then skips to the next field, which is this text you would be taking manually. Of course, in the video, we actually automated that a little bit more by showing how in Sublime Text 4, you can use a plugin and inject it all in one shot with just an auto completion, so that it doesn't even have to be a snippet and you don't need a macro at all. Is there a way to subdue the path of the Python interpreter and file being run? Subdue how? Also, hello, welcome to the stream. I'm going to say, because I use these things in videos, that these are not actually things I need. So we'll get rid of that. And we'll get rid of that as well. There are a couple of Python related things in here too. Relative Python exec, for example. I can't scroll that, can I? No, I can't, but I can do this. Let's see, get the standard list of build variables, construct a relative path to the current file. Now, an issue that I have with this, all of the stuff that is in this user package right now is stuff that was written because someone in the forum asked a question, someone on Stack Overflow asked a question, and I worked up a plugin for them in order to answer their question. You don't want to see the full path of the interpreter or the file being run. Let's see. Let's say if I had this and we saved this in my home directory as sample.py, yeah, we'll just go ahead and replace that. What the heck? I'm probably clobbering something interesting. I would use a more interesting file name, I would assume. If I try to build this, no build system. All right, let's see. The build system must be set to something funky here. Let's do that. So this will probably work. I just see the output when I do it, or in Terminus, I see the output when I do it, or with Python 3, I just see the output. What's the stuff that it's showing you that you're not interested in seeing? Like when there's an error? That's probably not a great example of something like that because that's just a syntax error. Raise. Oh, hang on. Whoops. That's not what I meant to do. User Python build. We use this one. I'm assuming you don't have that in yours. So it shows the complete path of Python 3 and the full path using Command B. Can you share a link to the build system that you're using? Because I think the only time that something like that might happen is in a case like this when the build fails, in which case you get to see all of this diagnostic information, which includes a bunch of stuff. But otherwise, if everything works as expected, the only output that you should see is the output from your program, if any. Yeah, the only thing I can think is if you have quiet not turned on, which quiet isn't a thing that is implemented or is in the build by default, but you could turn it on if you like. But yeah, that's the thing that I just tweaked in my build. This line here. Are you in my Discord? You can send me a private message on Discord, or you can DM me something on Twitter, like a link. Other than that, we can make sure that it doesn't leak out at all. Oh. If you've created your own custom one. If you're using one of the built-in ones, then it could well be the quiet thing that that Mike pointed out. I like to keep that on just because it does keep the output a lot nicer. Correct file. So you only see the actual text of stuff or the error, but you don't get to see the you don't have to see the full diagnostic output that Sublime tells you to show you when something went wrong. Yeah. I'm a fan of that myself. I can see why. So the difference between those two things, just in case this is what's biting you here, is in this one where the code is just doing what you would expect it to do, all you see is the output. You don't see anything, including the time that it took to execute. If it was raising some error of some sort, then in this case, we see the error that the tool is generating, and we can sort of tweak path in that to not see it with another thing that we can do to modify the build. But apart from that, you don't see anything else here, and that is entirely controlled by whether or not this quiet item is in the build system. It defaults to being set to false, which is the same as not having it there. And in that case, when it works, you get this diagnostic that says how long it took. If you're using Sublime Text 3, then it's not measured in milliseconds, it's measured in seconds. But if there's an error, then you see this whole thing here that says that it finished in this. It tells you the actual command that it tried to run, so that you can verify if something went wrong or not. It tells you what the current directory was when it was executed, so in case that matters, and the path that it used to look up programs, in case that helps to see. That could be a thing. Another thing that you can do here, assuming that you had, say, quiet true turned on, and there was something that was a problem, in this case, you still see the full path name to the file, That's because the build system is using $file, which expands out to the full path, including folder, to the file in the active view. But what you can do is change that to file name instead, so that it, I would change it in all of these places just to be safe in this particular build system. Now, if you do that, this is going to run Python -u and just the name of the file, which is sample.py. So in order for this to actually work in a reliable way, because it still will mostly work in some situations, but not necessarily in all of them, you want to add a working dir here, and here you would say file path, which, as we can see here, file path is the path to the folder that contains the file in the active view. That's the one that's being compiled. This is basically doing a CD into that particular thing. So in this case, if there's an error, the file name is now being passed not as a relative path name, and the working directory is set the same. So the error that you get looks a little bit different there. And we can also see that here if I turn quiet off when you run the build again. You can see the command now is just the name of the file. The directory is still the same because it's the working dir item. If you're using exec, which is what is used by default for a build like this, is the file. If it's not provided, the directory that the file is currently in, the current file is in. So most of the time that'll work. This doesn't work if you use terminus. In terminus, if this item isn't set, it defaults to the first folder you have open in the window, if any, and if not, your home directory. So things can go all wonky. But yeah, give those a try and see if that gives you the result that you want. And if not, if you share what it is that you're seeing and what you'd like to not see, and or the build, we'll be able to help a little bit better with what might actually be the best way to handle that. Let's see, I'm going to put that back to the way that it was before something funky happens. I really got to get on updating my hyper help as well. It's a little out of date for some of the newer items, and we'll also close you. So this might actually be related to that, to be perfectly honest. This is an example of a custom build target. Now I have to remember what this one is. So if we were to look through the code, we're going to get the list of all variables, which is those things we were just looking at a second ago in the help for build systems, file path, and stuff. It gets the relative path between the file and the folder at the top of that's currently open. Remove the extension. Oh, right. So this was because somebody had a Python project with a folder open that had multiple levels of stuff. For example, something that might look like this, for example. Not this exactly, because this is a package and not a Python program. But the idea that this person had is if they were in this and they wanted to execute this, what they wanted to do was be able to know that the module name of this is source.commands.freshen_all, for being able to execute stuff that inside of a Python library, or if you will. So this is an example of a custom build target that can do that. It assumes that you're running it with Python, and it gets the relative file name between the full name of the current file and the first folder, which would give you, if it was in the top level, that would be the empty string. If it was in a folder named Bob, it would be Bob/file, etc. And then we can split it on things and join it up in order to, get just the path of the thing and replace the path separator with dots. And then it adds a custom build module, or a module name variable, which you could use in a build. Hello, Kareem. Welcome to the stream. Yes. 4:37. My goodness, did you have to set an alarm to wake up super early? We're just going through. Hope you had a great day, by the way, or are going to have a great day, depending on whether or not you've been to bed. Pardon me for bumping the mic. We're going through some older plugins that I have laying around in my user package that are the result of helping people with problems in the Sublime forum and such. Let me just see here. I cannot type tonight. Relative Python. Let's see. It would have to be the problem, such as it is that I answer questions in a bunch of places, so I can never necessarily tell exactly where any particular question might have been launched. Whoops, my goodness. I did a very poor job of tracking where these things were coming from. Oh, that seems to be here. All right, check it out. I totally found it. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to click this, like so. And for anybody that would like to follow along with what it is I'm looking at here, here's the link to it. This is from the forum. Back in 2019, this is how long this thing has been floating around in my user package. It was October of 2019 that someone had this problem. And let's do that so that it's actually visible here without going behind the chat. I have a project like project path packages sample. I want to build when I'm editing sample.py, but from the root specifying the module in order to make the Python import path correct. Because as we've just seen, if we look at the Python build from the Python package, and this is the actual one with Sublime Text 3 now. It actually uses Python 3 by default everywhere but Windows, where it uses Py to make sure that it's going to pick the correct Python, which is kind of interesting. I can only assume that means that as soon as Sublime Text 4 becomes publicly available, everybody in the world is going to delete Python 2 and rename Python 3 to Python, and everybody's build's not going to work. What it does is just execute Python with the full name of the file and rely on the fact that the current directory is going to be set to this file to make sure that everything actually works. But if you actually wanted to do something like he is pointing out here, which is being able to execute this file from inside of this folder and have it specify -m project.sample or whatever, so that everything that imports from relative imports further up the chain. How do you do something like that? And you would do it like this by specifying -m, but there's no variable that knows how to do that. So that is the genesis of this plugin here. This is the code that we're looking at right now, and here is an example of how you would actually use something like this. If you use Terminus, then this is probably fairly common for you to see, but there's a key that you can use in your build named target, which tells Sublime to execute a different command than the one that it would normally execute, which is the exec command. So here we're telling it to use the relative Python exec command, which is the one from the plugin, relative Python exec. Note that this is a subclass of exec command, so we can tie into the machinery that the run command has to know how to do everything about running a build, and just specify a little bit of extra stuff that happens before the build actually launches. It's a very powerful technique for something like this. And then here is the actual command that it's executing. Note that it's using the special variable module name, which is what this is injecting here. It's creating a variable named module name. So if you've ever wanted to have a build that has your own variables in it, this is easy to do. There's also videos on the channel that cover this. And one thing to note here is that Sublime expands all variables, like this and such, in shell command, and working dir before it calls the command, so that you never have to worry about any of that. So It'll expand all variables even if it doesn't understand them, and if it doesn't understand what the variable is, it expands to an empty variable. So in order for it to leave this alone, you need to use $, which tells Sublime, just leave that alone, turn it into a $sign. Code further down the line is going to want to deal with that. And because $$ isn't a valid character escape in JSON, you have to use // so that when this is loaded and parsed as JSON, the // becomes a single slash because you're escaping the slash character, which makes it be $, and then when Sublime executes it, it knows that it's $, turns it to $. It's a whole thing. But this solved his problem nicely, and as a matter of fact, I guess I clearly pointed out a list to a link rather to the playlist. So let's do this and stick this in this file. Normally I do a little something like related reading, like so. If I could type, if my mouse and everything wasn't in the funky spot, maybe we just do that a little bit like so. And then I would go on and say what other information about this, including a sample build system. And I can't remember. We'll try a couple of commands here. It could be this, or it could be this. It's not one that I use super often as a command, but basically there's a repository, the stealthy and hasty repository, or sorry, an organization. I always call it a repository. It's an organization on GitHub, and then one of the things that's in there, I'm assuming that that's going to be neither of those. Thank you very much. Oh, there we go. That link, GitHub link there, will take you to the stealthy and hasty GitHub organization with me and Keith Hall from the forum and the Discord in it. And one of the things we have in there is a scraps repository with a plugins folder that has sample plugins just like this. So this, I think, is a candidate for going in under custom build systems. And I'd like to rework some of those examples as well. So I like that one as an idea. And this is double check that, okay. There was the red dot on the Discord, and I wanted to make sure that nobody was asking a question there. Hello, Ashwin. Welcome to the stream. How's your day going so far? Hopefully you've had a delightful breakfast, and you're now ready to look at some plugin code. We're going through some plugins that have been laying about in my user package, and in this particular case, for this one has been here since October of 2019. Someone, whoops, pardon me, asked the question about how to provide the module for the current file to a Python build system, and I wrote this plugin for them, and it's been waiting for that long to actually make it into the scraps repository. You know, when you do a lot of streams and video creation and stuff, it can be kind of hard to track these things. So that one's marked now because I've made a modification to the file, so that's cool. Let's see. This isn't necessarily interesting to the world at large, but if you want to execute a Node.js program, this is an example of a build system that will do that. As a matter of fact, you don't even need the target cancel part. It could just be these 3 lines here, and that would be enough to get it going. But I run them in Terminus just in case, because sometimes it might be something that's interactive. Yeah, I know, right? It's weird that time sort of seems like it has been dragging with regards to that, but by the same token, I've been, looking lately as I'm going through stuff and making a new video and referring to previous videos, like the one yesterday that referred to the reverting to a fresh state video from like August of 2020, and it amazes me that actually happened last year. I just lost all track and sense of time of how stuff is is going here. I have a Python build that runs stuff in Terminus, just in case. You might note that this is exactly identical to the default, but with the Terminus lines at the top. Could also point out here, if you're not aware, the target key specifies a window command to be used to execute the build. If this isn't here, there's a command built in called exec that does that job. You can optionally, if you pass target, also pass the cancel key here. You don't have to. If you don't, you can't cancel a running build using the build cancel build item from the menu or the command palette. But if you do specify this, you can set it up to cancel builds, and you can do that in two ways. One, you can specify a command to execute to cancel the build, which is what Terminus does. And the other thing you can do can be seen in the example here, which may weirdly look like it's passing another object here, but the magic of this is that when the target command is executed because you do a build, the variables the keys in the build are, except for a couple of them, which was discussing just in the Discord earlier today or yesterday, get passed to this command as arguments. If cancel is a string, that's the command that's executed, and it gets all of these arguments. If cancel is not a string, then the target command is executed with all of the contents of this build file plus an extra thing here. The kill true is an argument that the exec command that's built into Sublime takes in order to tell it to kill the currently running program. So because this plugin extends the exec command and basically just does a little bit of setup into the arguments before it lets the exec command do the business. Whoops, don't do that. Yeah, you cancel. Thank you. It also specifies that there's a couple of different ways to pull that off. Does Terminus's cancel build also kill the previous process? I think, if I remember from looking at the code when I was chasing some stuff down, whenever this runs, if you use Terminus exec to run something in a panel, then it cancels whatever was previously running in order to reuse the panel. But if you use Terminus open, which opens it in a tab, then it doesn't do that, so that you can have multiple things running all at once. But yeah, and that's one of those things that's fixed in Sublime Text 4 or enhanced in Sublime Text 4. In Sublime 4, if you run a build and then run a build again, it makes sure to stop what was previously executed before it goes again. Sublime 3 doesn't do that. It just sort of lets that still run in the background, which, as shown in a recent video, can cause no end of issues. Pardon me. I'm going to keep that one there. Now, here's another one that is another build. I can't remember what the deal with this was either, but we could try. No, huh? And I'm pretty sure that was actually somebody from the forum. Maybe if I search for it the other way. I have a recollection that this was somebody in the forum that asked this particular question. But it does not seem to be found. So I'm not sure where to go with that. Let's see. If I was to click this and here, is there not a way on GitHub to search that this thing here. Search by, shoot. That's not going to work. I'm looking to see which one of these things might be good to put in the scraps repository and which ones we don't care about. And part of that is all of them, much like this one, should have something that relates back to the use case of the person who asked the question that caused me to write the plugin in the first place. And I really should be better about adding these in when I create them, but I'm clearly not that great at it. This one does the same sort of thing as this one does. Just a slightly different way to, a slightly different thing that it's doing. In this particular case, if I remember correctly, this person had files in a sidebar that sometimes they're in a directory named app1 or app2, or like that, and he needed a version variable to be passed to the command line program that he was using that could tell you whether it was 1 or 2, so that it could the tool knows to do something special with it. I can't remember. It wasn't a language that I'm familiar with, or a tool I'm familiar with. But that is a similar idea to this one. So in that regard, this one may be less interesting. Like we would do something like, first of all, we don't necessarily know what the related reading for this is. But also, you do this now. I guess that doesn't help because that one's kind of behind. Let me resize this window. Nope. So that we can see both of these things at the same time in this particular case. It's probably a nicer way to go in general. You can see the similarities here are rather numbing. They're both subclass from the exec command in the default package, and just do some work and override the run method to do some work, and then execute the exec commands build version of the run method to actually do the task of running and doing all of that stuff. The only thing that's different about this is in the manipulation it's doing, but it's still creating a variable and it's still expanding it out. So in that regard, not necessarily something that is interesting to keep, I don't think. The other thing to note, and I should make a note of this myself here, this should only expand variables in shell command, and working dir if it wants to be fully compatible with exec. Because the exec command, as again noted in the Discord, pardon me, either earlier today or yesterday for me, depending on when that happened, doesn't expand variables in. Oh, I guess we were talking about the actual arguments that are passed to the exec command. So I guess that's a slightly different thing. But variables are only expanded in those three things. They're not expanded in other parts of the build by default. Clearly, we could make it happen by doing this. But in the general case, you want to be a little bit smarter about how that works. And this is an example of this. If there's a few in that scraps repository, there's a few builds that are custom like this that are doing funky stuff that could actually be smarter and cooler like this one. So I'm going to say relative Python exec. I like that one as an example. Let's say this. You can do it this way, which allows you to so yeah, I don't think we actually need this one. So we're going to get rid of this one here. Nothing too exciting about that. That's a clever thing. That's actually something that I was pondering doing for some stuff too. Back in the day, before even a lot of stuff that would make it cooler, like list inputs and stuff. I hope you enjoy your sleep. Thanks for hanging out and showing your support, Tater. Hopefully we'll see you in a stream soon. Possibly the Jackbox thing whose name I can't remember. I always want to say Balderdash, but that's not what it is because that's not even a Jackbox game. I promise I won't use the word poop. Boulder Dash. Hacky Sack, hello, welcome to the stream. Sneaking in. It was kind of surreal seeing you in that stream on YouTube last night. Quiplash, that's the one. Yeah. I don't know why I can never remember that. I may have mentioned I actually have that exact Jackbox game for reasons I don't understand. So theoretically, I could do a thing like, for example, I'm precariously close to 250 followers. So maybe I could do that as a 250 follower thing because I didn't do anything for 100 and I didn't do anything for 200 either. I'm awful when it comes to celebrating these sorts of things. 214 followers right now. Yeah, so maybe that could be like a 250 type thing. There you go. You could be part of the audience. I hear that's fun. I think I've mentioned this on the Twitch stream as well. Technically, game could probably run under Linux, but I'd probably want to do it from my Windows laptop, so I need to set some stuff up to stream from there, or set this system up with my laptop on the side and inject Windows as a background instead of Linux for stuff. So, whoop whoop. That might be something that I could try to do earlier in the day so that you don't have to be up until 4 o'clock in the morning or later, Tater. We need you at your best, and we need Sam around so we have somebody to win. Okay. Now, next up is this one. Boop. This one is set to disabled because it does something that I was not interested in having done to me. Let's do this. That's a little nicer. Well, I guess it does up our chances if she's not there to somehow snake it. But some amazing talent and ability for winning Quiplash, I will say. Whatever the one was that we played with Jadles was cool too. I can't remember what the name of that one was either. So we know we have at least 2 people. We know Tater and Hacky Sack will show up. I could probably make Mary Sue play too. Can learn her secrets. Now, this night, Tater. Have a good night. See you in a stream tomorrow, perhaps yours or someone else's, or in a Minecraft server somewhere. Again, I should get you to join mine and see what sort of stuff that I'm doing that is not at all beautiful or exciting to look at. I'm just looking into Discord real quick here. I have a guess at where this came from. Oops. There's more L's there than I expect. Boop boop. That's this thing. There we go. So we say this. Related reading. None. This was the result of a question asked in the DM in the Discord. the question in question was, because there's a few versions of this. Let's see. A plugin that auto closes a layout when all tabs disappear. Right. I could have guessed that from what it's actually doing, but the idea is that if there were save that. If there were two panes like so, that when you close and there are some tabs in here, when you close this tab, this pane gets destroyed so that it goes back to 1. But you don't want to do that if it's the only thing in the window, or the window will close when you do that. And I think, and Ashwin might be familiar with this too, I think, because I know that you, much like me, track the issue tracker for Sublime. But the reason why this code down here is in a timeout, right? Because you don't want to do this to a transient view. You don't want to do it if there's more than one thing, but otherwise destroy the current pane. If you do this from directly inside of the input inside of this event handler, when the event is handled, Sublime crashes because the layout changes. And I have a recollection that recently there was something that was reported on the issue tracker related to that could potentially be fixed, could not be, but the simple expedient there was just to defer it so that it gets out of the event and back into the main loop, in which case there's no problem. Something that we could probably test, but I don't really want to crash my Sublime. But that does seem like something, there's even a comment there to say that very thing, right? I think that would be something that might be interesting to people. That, and I don't know that it's represented here, but one of the things that I came up with in the Plugin 101 video on event listeners and event handlers, that showcased how easy it is to create a plugin so that the default file type for new files is Python, for example, instead of plain text. That's one common thing that people have questions about sometimes. And there's packages that do that, but if you don't want to have a whole package, if you just want to have one little Python file, it's very easy to do. And another one might be something like this. So I think that is something that is probably worthy of throwing in as a scrap of some sort. And what is this one? Oh, that looks interesting. An end of file context listener. Now, who asked for that, I wonder? That one. I mean, somebody somewhere has got to be asking for these things, I would assume, right? And that should be finding everything. I'm almost assured that I didn't change the name of classes as I was posting them on the forum. So that makes that one kind of harder to find. But this is an example of a custom key binding context for knowing when you're in the last line of a file. And I can't remember why someone might have wanted that. Get the region that represents the last line in the view and the character offset that represents the end of the file. The whole selection. Oh my goodness. Check to see which of the selections is contained in the last line. Yeah, I can't quite remember what this was supposed to be for, so I'd have to search that, I think, in order to be able to tell. We'll add in the line here, though. I almost certainly did not name this with a name that makes it handy to tell anybody else what it might be. Maybe we could search something like this in the Google. What do you think of that, Google? Well, not that one. If it doesn't show up in the top, I'm assuming it's not going to show up. So this could be an example of something that somebody was asked in a DM or something, which is going to make that a little trickier. because I like to put the use case that someone had for the thing. Check if one or all selections have their cursor positioned in the last line of the file. I'm pretty sure that the original question was just I want to know if the cursor's in the last line of a file, and I'm like, you know what? In order to be robust enough potentially to be a scrap, you probably want to check all of them as appropriate. It's a good example of a custom key context for what that's worth, because it respects match all, which a lot of these don't do. We're using the operator and the operand and the match all. A lot of the time when I make examples for these, they're not dealing with selection at all, in which case match all is whatever the value is, it doesn't matter because it's not going to apply anyway. That really only applies when there's more than one selection. So let's say we actually do want to keep that, and I can try to scoop down later where that might actually end up. Let's see, what's this one? This event is raised when Sublime sees a key binding context it does not recognize. Indeed, I think this looks an awful lot like something that ended up in a Plugin 101 video. Unsurprisingly, I tend to work on those here on this system before I move them over to Windows, which, among other things, allows me to make for sure that whatever it is that I'm doing works on multiple platforms. So in that case, we do not need this. I remember this, by the way, because there's a setting context by default in Sublime that lets you do something whether or not there's a particular setting set, which is what is used to trigger this. For example, the thing that wraps text in quotes has a context in it that makes sure that it only applies if the auto wrap setting, whatever it's called, is present. So we don't need this one. The example was showing how to do that on a view setting specific way instead of a regular one. So let's go ahead and get rid of that when we don't need that. I can't imagine what this is even supposed to. I think this looks like something that we helped somebody with during one of the live streams, I think. Extract function, like if I was to select some text here, and this is a text command, I think I could say view.run command extract function, and the result is going to be, oh, that's right, it's the thing that sticks it to the bottom. Yeah, that is something that we did for in one of the live streams recently, isn't it? The person who asked this question might actually be here tonight, in which case, hello. But yeah, I remember this from being from one of the live streams, because the idea that someone had is being able to select some stuff and have it hit a command and have it dropped to the bottom of the window. And then Ben mentioned like there's a duplicate command you could use to do that, but it doesn't put it at the bottom of the file. You'd have to take extra steps to do that. So that was just sort of a one-off thing. I don't know that in this case this is anything that's scrap worthy such as it is, because there are better examples of how to get text out of the buffer and put text in that either exist or could exist. So let's say we don't necessarily care about that one either. And all these things are going to the trash as well, so that is less worrisome than it could be. I'm gonna guess this is something I was working on so that I wouldn't have to deal with file manager problems, but I think Terminal, if he's still here, is solving all of my file manager woes. As I think he mentioned earlier in the Discord that he was going to be, or already had done some PRs, in which case this is a version of the delete file command for deleting files, because there's a couple of things that I use File Manager for personally. One of them is the this file manager delete, which you've seen me use a bunch of times, and another is the one that I have for a new file relative to current view, which allows you to create a new file at any particular path. And in this particular case, it knows where the current file is so that I can create another file alongside of it. And I was going to create my own plugin to do that so that I don't have to use File Manager, but File Manager I think is getting some updates. It was created by Math 2001, but it hasn't been updated in a while. I think the story going around was that he stopped using Sublime and moved on to something else. So there's a few niggly bugs in there that probably someone, like I say, perhaps even a terminal, if I'm remembering correctly. If not, apologies. So I'm going to say I don't really care about that because it's mostly just as examples go, an input handler, which we already have examples of, and this uses the built-in delete file command to delete a particular file. It doesn't prompt anybody because it's already prompted you. If you execute this command and confirm is false, then it uses an input handler to ask you to confirm. So it can confirm without having to use a dialog box, which I think is a nicer way to go, personally. So let's get rid of that. We don't care about that one. I know what that is, and we're going to leave that to last before we look at anything anywhere. What was the purpose of this one? Oh, this is something that somebody asked in the Discord. I remember this. I don't use Haskell myself, but I'm led to believe that there's a cabal file or files that can be sprinkled around. I think the idea is that there's like one per project, but this person had multiple projects all in one folder. And in order to execute the build properly, it needed to know the name of the one to use to be able to pass it to a command of some sort. This one does that by starting in the directory of the current file, and then looking to see, is there a cabal file in this directory? No. How about the parent? No. How about the parent? And it either gets to the root of the drive, in which case it knows that it didn't work, or it finds the location of a cabal file, which it can return and then set in a variable. And again, that's very similar to this. This is, again, just a subclass of the default exec command. But see, this is a very powerful mechanism that Sublime and its developers have provided us here to be able to add in extra code before a command executes, and also, as seen in some of the videos on my channel, after a build is executed as well. For just a little bit of plugin magic that isn't otherwise possible, or you could just go whole ham and create a completely different thing, maybe something that doesn't even execute a program at all. For example, my HyperHelp author package for authoring help for my help system has a build target that just lints the file, so you can lint a file with the lint command or by trying to build it, which is a very handy thing. Hang on a second. That's not working the way that it is supposed to. Cable clip came untied. Pardon me. Okay. One tick. So is this something that is interesting? I don't think so, unless you're new to the idea of doing a simple recursive search for files that match a particular pattern. But that doesn't seem like the sort of code snippet that Sublime Scraps would have, because it's not really Sublime related at all. It's just sort of Python related, and there's probably a better way to do this. This is just something I cribbed together for someone while we were talking back and forth in the Discord a little ways back. So I'm going to say that for our purposes, we're not interested in this, but it's appeared in this stream. So if we need to replicate the code, we could get it. We could also just look in the Discord as well, I would imagine. So let's get rid of that one. We're really making some progress here. Now, what were we doing here? This isn't anything that was necessarily asked for a question. I think this is something we were working on in a live stream. So let's see. I think this is an example of an input handler that lets you potentially select multiple items, if I remember correctly. Is that a nice example of something to include in the plugin scraps repository? What do you guys think? Could potentially be. I suspect if it is, it's going to need a little bit more work than what we have here in order to be able to do anything. Whoops. Every time, I swear you. How many times has this come up in just the last couple of days alone? If you're going to use a command that you want to appear in, that you want to have input handlers in, it has to be in the command palette. No exceptions. Otherwise, Sublime will not honor anything. So if we were to do that, so it's giving us, say we pick this one, and now we can pick another one. We can say PD for package dev and then say execute. And it executed with the list of things. And similarly, I think we have the ability to uncheck stuff as well. Maybe not. There might have been an example of that that is not currently working. So this might be requiring a little bit more action than what we currently have available. Clearly this line here would have to change. If it's in packages, append, I'm not sure about this one. This isn't anything that was asked by anybody. It was just something that I was playing with, but it's not entirely done yet. I'm not sure if this is worth saving as an example and doing something with. Making it a little bit smarter. Could be a good plugin 101 video. Among other things, it shows something that a lot of people gloss over, which is that when you create an input handler of some sort, in this case a list input handler, you can specify an init in here and provide any arguments you like. Normally, when you do stuff in Sublime plugins, you're creating commands like a text command or a window command or an application command or an event listener or a view event listener. And in all of those cases, those are things that Sublime creates for you, and you don't have to necessarily create them yourself. So that can put you in mind of the idea that when you create an input handler, that you don't have to or you can't include an init, but you can, and in many cases it's a handy thing. You can also do it for commands as well, but not often do you need to do something like that, and you have to make sure to call the super version to make sure that things, well, you don't have to make sure, but you should. It's a good practice whenever you override a constructor, I think, to train into the original to make sure that things still work the way that you expect. I think I'm going to keep this one around. I'll just touch the file. so that it shows up in the thing. Just because I think that could be a good plugin topic when we get back to doing plugin 101 stuff. And I need to work a little bit more on how plugin 101 works, just because I think the videos are a little bit too long for what they are. And I don't want to drive traffic off the channel either for people that aren't interested in it. So that's part of the reason why there hasn't been any lately. But also I've been waiting for Sublime 4 to officially drop so that we can cover all of the new stuff, and we know that it's going to be stable, which technically I think it probably is now. But Harsh Raj Gupta, hello, hi, welcome to the stream. I hope you're having a great morning or afternoon or evening. Next up, insert snippet with selections. Let's see what this is doing. Implements a version of insert snippet that provides access to each individual selection as numbered selections. I remember somebody asking this question. I don't remember where they asked this question, but I remember them asking this question. This one's actually handy. I liked this one as an example of something. That is this one. We'll go ahead and copy this. I would like to create a Sublime snippet that allows me to create an HTML tag when I select 2 lines of text. For example, you could select both of those lines and convert it into one or more keyword items, or maybe one or more list items as well. And snippets don't have the ability to do that because they have access to the selection, but they iterate over all selections. So if you were to select 2 things and invoke the snippet, both of them will expand one after the other, each with its own specific selection. So you need a command that you can trigger that knows to do it in a slightly different way, which is what this is. And I think that is what we want to have here. Yeah. If you're going to keep these things around, I would highly recommend after you write them and share them with someone, do this because it's going to be easier to find it. Don't do what I do what I say, and life might be a little bit better. Interesting how easy something like this is to do, right? And it's something that I talk about a lot in general and in Plugin 101, the idea that some plugin ideas seem, or plugins in general might seem daunting to have to do something to get the effect that you want. And while it's true that some things can be truly complicated to pull off, in a lot of cases, it's more a matter of clicking together the pre-existing Lego bricks of existing commands to do heavy lifting for you so that you don't have to do it yourself. In this case, using run command to execute insert snippet, because if that wasn't something that we could do, nothing like this I think would technically be, it would be possible, but no one would want to try to implement what inserting a snippet does without having the command to just do it for you. So I like that one as an idea. So let's keep that one in play. Whoops, that's cool. This one is something that was definitely asked in the Discord. I remember someone asking about this. And as the name suggests, it opens the user folder in the sidebar of the window. So we could say Sublime run command open user folder in new window, and here's my user folder open in a window. Maybe that'd be something that would be handy if you wanted to get at the contents of things. And then the other version of that is, instead of in new window, it would be in sidebar. And then if I did it correctly, open user folder in sidebar. Oh, sorry, that is a window command. Then it adds it to an existing window instead. a question on Discord. I think somebody that was working with their own plugins and stuff and wanted to be able to access them easier without having to use view package file and say user pi that to look at scratch buffer, for example. Which I find the faster way to do it if you know what the name of the file is. If you don't, it can be a little bit tricky to actually pull it off. I don't know that having it in the sidebar necessarily helps so much as seeing the list, but everybody does work in their own way. And this is an example of creating new windows and also executing commands in Windows, or just the idea of application commands in general, and manipulating the project data in a window to add stuff, because project data that you can get from a window just gives you the contents of the Sublime project file if there is one. If there's not one, then you end up with an object. Every window still has project data, even if it's not officially persisted to disk in a Sublime project file. So this is an example of doing that very thing, which you might want to do for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is this. So I like the idea of that as an example. My piano settings are something that it's not checked in because they're different on all of the systems that I run Sublime on, because in this particular case, it's using my MIDI drum pad as the MIDI input for playing things, but I don't have such a thing installed with a name that matches this on my Windows machine, and the Mac doesn't have any sort of MIDI stuff at all that I'm aware of. So this is something that I don't check in. I could probably ignore it or something, but we don't need to worry about that per se, and we don't need to worry about this, because this is something that I've worked on in the stream that actually makes it easier to work on plugins. And if you watched the video on, I think the breakdown of the official Sublime 4 trailer release, there was an example of the new autocomplete, complete with kind and the message on the bottom and such. That's actually, this is the plugin that was generating the completions for that. It's something I did again on a stream. So let's go ahead and let's say we open this just so that we can save it and make it appear. I'll do the same thing here. Just so we know that this one we've actually looked at, and then it'll make it a little bit easier to see in the list here. Now, scope navigate, I'm pretty sure this is going to be painful. We're going to have to wait for Nightbot to notice that I said something, but I'm pretty sure scope view as it exists here is already on my GitHub repository, in my GitHub repository list. Pardon me. A lot of long nights lately. Click the link. Oh, is that how we're playing it now? I'm pretty sure. Oh, sorry. Here we go. You go away now. Achievements. Uh-oh, I've achieved something, or I haven't achieved squat, one of the two. I don't know which of the two things I would have put it in. It could be in stealthy and hasty. We'll check here too. Is that a new thing? I don't remember seeing that before. I could go back and look and see. Maybe my achievement is the largest mean time between pushes to a public repository. And you. So let's see. Actually, click it, it'll load better, right? Hyperhelp other. I could swear. Oh, you know what? I could be blind. Pipe text. No, no, no. I may have missed it on the other page. What would I have called it is the question for the ages. This one here that I probably looked right at. This is, yeah, okay. If you watch the very first video, Common Questions 1 on scopes and scope selectors and how they work, it doesn't have me, and I sound awful sleepy because I'm reading from a script. You can share them in the Discord. Which forum link were you referring to? This is a version of the plugin that I used in my Common Questions 1 on scopes and scope selectors. It's a little more enhanced than that version was. And because it's here, I don't think it needs to be in the scraps repository. And do I normally use it myself? Goshy goshersons. If I did, I would assume that I would have a commands file to be able to know, to be able to execute it, because it's something that, oh, this one doesn't require one. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Derp. Oh, that's dumb. Yeah, scope navigate. There we go. Yeah, I was thinking that this is something else. I was thinking of scope viewer, because I know that that was hanging around in here. So yeah, let's look at that one. Jump to the selection in the file of the next or previous location. Yeah, give me the in the Discord for that bad boy. Oh my goodness, I got all kinds of stuff here. Hang on. Ooh, potential offer to draw stuff, and I assume key binding to find a particular set of characters. Beauty. That's this one. You are awesome. Losminda. Someone who, I guess by their own admission, was sort of grumpy about Sublime and configurations thereof, and then left to go use something else, and then decided that they actually like Sublime. This was related to being able to jump to the next and previous comment or something, wasn't it? I think his example was, if I remember correctly. Definitely something that I think is worth being in here. Comments in my code, yeah. You could use it for all kinds of things. You could use it to jump back and forth between Python classes, probably, if there's a unique scope on those, amongst other things. So yeah, when did I do that? January of last year. Good gravy. Yeah, I feel the same way. In fact, I stopped paying as well. Truth be told, I try to give everybody a fair shake when it comes to questions they have and whatnot, no matter where they ask them or who they are. But when it comes to Riverleaf and the other incarnations of Riverleaf, I tend to just ignore those out of hand. And that is very largely because any response that you make to something that he says is gonna look like it comes out of context, because instead of adding new posts to the bottom of a thread, he just keeps editing the top post over and over and over and over again to change what it is he's saying and what he's asking, and I can't track that. So I've tried a couple of times to try to help him with something, and it didn't really work out. Lasminda, I try to help, but when there's a really long post and it has a lot of stuff in here, that, and this isn't like one of them, but like he said, by his own admission, he's like a little whingy about stuff sometimes. When there's a post that is one or more full screens of stuff just complaining about how something doesn't do something that he wants and how to do the something instead of just a simple question, that's one of those things that we were discussing in a previous stream about nerd sniping. If you want someone to help you with a question and where you're not being paid to do it, like I'm not paid to help people in the forum or on the Discord, you have to present a question to me in a way that makes it seem like an interesting problem for me to solve, or something that I know I could be able to give you help for quickly. And if I have to read War and Peace to get to the part where you have the part of your question and you're kind of cranky while you're doing it, those are two ways that you're not going to pique my nerd interest. Yeah, so it sounds like he came back and he apologized for that. So, or they apologized. I shouldn't make an assumption that it's a guy. I have absolutely no idea who it is per se. So we give them a shake if questions pop up and it's something that I can answer and I can figure out what the question is. I'm definitely willing to help, but I don't have the cognitive willpower such as it is to read posts as long as posts that I would write telling you how to solve a problem just to figure out what your problem actually is. And in this case, this part explains the problem. I do like, by the way, the idea of the easiest way would be to do this. Again, when it comes to nerd sniping and getting someone to answer your question, as a pro tip, we like people that look like they've tried to solve the problem themselves, because that's part of what makes a problem look more intriguing. Like, oh, you ask a question like, how do I do such and such? And the first thing that jumps into my head is exactly how such and such would work. So immediately I might think like, oh, I know how to do that. You could have searched that. But if you also add in, also, I tried this and it doesn't work, then I might be like, oh, wow, I would have thought that would work. Why doesn't that work? And as soon as I use the word why somewhere in my head while I'm reading one of these things, you probably hooked me and I'm going to try to figure out. This isn't specific to just me, mind you. This is just sort of how this works in general on forums like this they're staffed by volunteers, if you will. People that answer questions of their own volition, they need to be convinced that their time is worth helping you with your problem. So anything you can do to make that seem like it's the case by writing a succinct question, by pointing out things that you have tried that didn't work, stuff like that, really helps get at the meat of that, such as will, as Ashwin pointed out in the chat there. Okay, I'm happy with that one. This is something that I just use all the time in videos and variations thereof. It just takes wherever the cursor is currently sitting and jumps it to the top of the buffer. Very useful for working with plugins and plugin 101 and such, where I have this bound to a key to do that. And again, you can see that one more time. If this last line is where the cursor is when I execute this, it jumps up there. Now the viewport changes when the console opens and closes. Handy to have. I mean, I think it's handy. It's an example of, and there's another one of these in here as well that might be interesting, how to manipulate the viewport of the window, which is the visual part of it. Figuring out how tall a line is, and then figuring out what line is at the top, so that you can or what line would be at what offset you would need to be at to make the current line be at the top. It's probably the best way to go. And it uses selection 0, so it's always the first one. I think, I think that is good as a scrap, but I don't know that there's nothing that's a forum post related to that one. That's just something I wrote up because I'm going to guess it was part of the plugin 101 where there were a lot of event listeners and I needed to be able to boost them to the top of the buffer without a lot of fiddling around. What's this one? This would be the example that goes with the stuff that I deleted at the very beginning at the top of this pile for how to do something like this. In Sublime Text 4, you can use an event listener to expand a snippet and also auto fold stuff. This is already something that's tracked elsewhere, so I don't think this needs to be part of the scraps repository. Showing available dependencies in the quick panel. Did you know that if you use override audit and find something that if you hover over dependencies, it'll tell you what packages rely on it? What's MD pop-ups, sub notify only. That's interesting. Pipe process would PTY process would be terminus. Sublime lib, I only have package dev installed for that. And similarly, if you view packages, it'll also tell you what dependencies they have as well. Handy, handy. At least I think so. Related to that particular thing. I like, I want to say, I've seen somewhere, I don't think it's package dev though. Yeah. I don't remember what it's called or where it is, but I have seen a package. Maybe the troubleshooting package, is that a thing? That does that, gathering system information. I could have swore that it was something that they wanted to add to package dev, but maybe not. I could be misremembering that. You have to look at the code for it, I suppose. This view is kind of funky. There. Make life slightly better. Right at the breakpoint where it doesn't think that it is mobile. So I think one of the things it does is probably very similar to that. Gathering information on the current platform and such. Kind of like what I think Merge has a similar thing in its debug information that it copies to the clipboard. Also includes stuff like that, I think. A plus comes in handy. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Perhaps not. I may be thinking of something else there too, but indeed, yeah. This I love the idea of using a tool that you can extend to make your life better in the general case for stuff like that. Hello, Ben. Welcome to the stream. How's your day going so far? Polishing up those codes with a nice soft chamois, I hope. Case in point on that is the thing that I mentioned earlier, new file relative to current view. Now, I can't remember where it came from, but this is something that one of the packages I was using was capable of doing. And I got really used to using it. And then I stopped using that and started using File Manager. I thought, I do this often enough. Let's just add a command to be able to do it. Now, I could add this to the tab menu as well, which would make life a lot cooler in that regard. Man, there's a lot of Submerge stuff there. Ooh, oh yeah, I noticed that with magic new security for credit card stuff. I agree with the person whose problem that was regarding quick turnaround times. Awesome. I love to hear stuff like that. I've used it a few times myself as well. I think Ayush was asking a question about that stream where we worked on that, I think. I can't remember. Maybe it was something slightly different. But this is also sort of like a work ethic thing of mine per se, because at work we do historically, and I've covered this in excruciating detail in a lot of streams, financial stuff. With server backend stuff, but 50% of our time is maintaining this, writing new stuff, fixing bugs in things, and changing things according to new feed specs as they're coming in. But the other part, the other 50% of our time is solely in data analysts asking questions like, why is this price this? Why is this price isn't this? How does this price get calculated? And stuff like that. And over the course of the 20 years that we've been working on this, clearly, we have a, back of the hand map in our head about maybe we don't know exactly the answer to your problem without looking at the code, but we can tell exactly what file we need to be in and probably damn near what line in the file we actually need to be at in order to see something like that. But we spent a lot of time working on tools to help us do what it is that we're doing, that, based on the requests that are coming in from people, asking the same sorts of questions, we need a tool that makes it easier to find the information that we need for this. So we create the tool for that, and we create, a logging for this and a report generator for the other, and sort of build up over time this list of tools that allows us to do our jobs faster and better. And as a result, the system more or less runs itself at this point. And I do the exact same thing, and that's what I love about Sublime so much, that I can do that very thing. Like, I do a lot of YouTube videos, so I created the ability to modify details in my YouTube videos right here in Sublime, because I can do that. It's going to make my life a whole lot easier, and it's a handy way to do something like that. I assumed that was probably the case, but nevertheless, awesome timing. I love how that works out. I can't begin to enumerate the number of times that I've done stuff with videos here on the channel where okay, this week's video is going to be about say safe mode. We're gonna talk about safe mode this week, and I decide what it is that I'm gonna say and how I'm gonna say it, and I get everything ready, and all the stuff is recorded, sort of waiting for the weekend for me to edit it. And then all through the week, people just start asking questions about safe mode out of nowhere, as an example. I don't think that didn't happen this time, but it happens a ridiculous amount of times. And I'll be like, well, it just so happens that on Monday, there's going to be a video that covers this exact thing. And I seem to have some sort of, at times, weird psychic powers to be able to pull that this is going to be like a popular question this week. That's not what influences how I create videos, but like, it's such a weird coincidence that really makes you feel powerful. So I would imagine you got like a little bit of a why yes, we do have a solution for that problem forthcoming. We've been working on it for a while. If you just leave that last part out, you're just like, ta-da, wizard. I think it was Scotty from the original Star Trek in that episode of The Next Generation where they find him and he's been in a transporter for 70 years or something, and he shares with Geordi the secret to being a good engineer is telling everybody that everything is going to take twice as much time to do as it actually does, and then you have a reputation as a miracle worker because you get everything done in half the time. It could be a way to go sometimes to build a reputation. Or you could just do the same thing so often that you get really good and fast at it. Either way, it seems to work. I can't remember. Is PayPal allowed for doing purchases? I can't remember if that's one of those things that people ask about that's done now or not. And I'm also, and this is probably just the fact that I'm a Canadian, sort of weirded out by people saying it's not accepting my debit card. And I'd be like, well, why would it accept your debit card? A debit card is a debit card, not a credit card. It says it right in the name, debit and credit. But I bet you that's a lot more seamless in countries that aren't mine. Yeah, indeed, right? I've been thinking that for a long time. One day it's going to be true. If a developer says it'll take a week, it'll take two. Uh, this is actually something that's been annoying us at work recently because me and my coworker who work on the Objective-C part of the system have been doing nothing but that for 2 decades. And a lot of that work is very samey, such as it is. There's a new feed that's coming in. We're going to need to process data in a new format, or a message format is changing and something needs to be modified. And once you do that enough times, whoops, pardon me, with the familiarity that we have with the code, we can come up with a very accurate estimate for when you say that SIAC is going to implement a new message with a new NBBO quotation on the end. I can see in my head exactly the steps that are needed to take that. I've done it all before. It's going to take this time. We could damn near hit it dead on, but we add in the little bit of extra overlap. The stuff we're doing now is all so completely new that someone's like, how long is it going to take you to write something that converts this XML file into JSON and inserts it into a Mongo database with all of this, that, and the other using TypeScript? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never even used Mongo database before. I don't even know how to estimate this thing. So that and the fact that there's 2-hour meetings that happen every day, so my work day is essentially 2 hours shorter. We're estimating, we're using the swag, the sophisticated wild guess, if you get what I'm saying, and tacking on, we don't know what's going on time, and I'm not going to have any time to work on this because I'm in a meeting time. Neat. Yeah. Here in Canada, those two things, debit and credit cards, are distinct for a lot of purposes. Even at point of sale devices, the person behind the counter needs to know which of the two things it's going to be for it to work. But generally speaking, they're not compatible with, say, just plugging into Sublime's website. I couldn't use my bank card for that. As far as I know, anyway. Otherwise, I would have bought a lot more stuff over the years. They say it goes over the same network, but I think it's slightly different because, like, say, my debit card isn't associated with a credit vendor per se, so it goes over the ATM network, but I don't think it has the same endpoint. To be honest, the last time I did worked on or talked about anything like that in any detail, I was in college. So, I mean, I still had a beard then, but it was all one color. As a matter of fact, boop. Whoops, pardon me. It was the color of the one behind my face there. Bring the chat back. Chat, come back. Boop. I guess I should probably push this button. My beard was that color back in the day. I have had a beard for a long time. I may or may not have mentioned at some point that one of the vows when I got married was that my wife was never going to make me shave my beard, because I knew if I ever shaved it once, she'd want me to do it all the time. And I have a real baby face, so I don't like that. Also, don't like shaving in general. It's too much work. Clearly, I got Sublime Text to play with, although I didn't know that 14 years ago when I got married. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't think we care about that one that much. This is also something that was in a video. And there's actually two ways to do this, so I should probably keep this around as an addendum for that video, because there's extra stuff in here that it works slightly differently. How this actually has to work, which I think has something to do with the way focus changing may have changed between Sublime Text 3 and 4. I'm not entirely sure. I just know that based on this this line that the cursor is on right now, I was more than a little confused working on this for the video in which this was laid out. I think it was like supercharging your builds with Terminus. If I had to remember correctly, if I have to guess what it is, I think that's the thing. I implemented it here on this system in Sublime 4, and then when it came time to actually do the video, I was using Sublime Text 3 under that user because I wasn't creating videos for Sublime Text 4 yet, and it didn't work the way that I thought it would, and I ended up blowing a bunch of time trying to figure out what the magic was between these things. But there's something slightly different in the way stuff has to work. I think these probably look the same right now. I'd have to compare this to how it looked in the video. I think I had two different versions of it at the time, and I probably have this one here because it's the one that I was using for part of another video. But we'll leave that one alone for the time being. Let's not do anything with that. Now we're totally into things that are weirdly named. We're using Scrum as well, but it's a weird version of Scrum where someone tells us how long something is supposed to take, and then they get bitchy at us when it takes longer than that to do. Doesn't seem like a good way to go. Also, as I mentioned this earlier, you might expect a Scrum meeting to be a quick 5 to 10 minute affair where everybody stands up and says, this is what I've been doing. Everything seems to be good. I'm on track, or I'm not on track. This is the blocker. We're going to need to talk to Bob about this. And then everybody hangs up and goes about their day. For me, that meeting lasts 2 hours, and it happens every day. And Roberto, hello. Welcome to the stream. How are you doing this fine evening or morning or afternoon? We're chatting and going over various Sublime Text plugins and consistently bumping the dongle that connects my wireless headset to my computer in an unfortunate way. I should not have put that in that location. We have been fighting that battle for 6 months now. They say, I'm not kidding when I say that people are telling us, the developers, how long things are going to take. And I'm like, you don't know how long it's going to take me to do this. I'm not even familiar with the technology that's in use right now. How would I know how long this is going to take? And how can you tell? You're just going to be unhappy with me when it turns out that we're both wrong. Also, I got a stern talking to by my manager when somebody asked me in a meeting how long something was going to take, and it's okay for you to say that it's going to take longer than we say. And I said, based on estimates, I'm going to say it's going to take me 3 years to get this done. Maybe it'll take less than that. I don't know. But 3 years, it'll definitely be done. If you want an estimate that I can definitely make sure to hit or exceed, that's going to be the one. I mean, she thought it was funny, but apparently there was somebody in the meeting that I should not have said that to. But did you used to work for Google, or am I thinking of someone else? I have the recollection that you used to work at Google, but I recollect a lot of things. So not all of them can possibly be true. I wanted to say a million years, but I'm not going to be around that long. Oh, okay. Yeah, I know John was. I thought somebody else also worked at Google too, but actually, I'm probably just misremembering something that was said. I want to say it was something that happened during the merge beta, but I could be wrong. Yeah, perhaps. Anybody remember somebody asking this question in the forum recently? Or was it somewhere else? Before coming back? You mean he worked for Sublime HQ and then went to Google and then came back? Set up debugger package. I've never used the debugger package for Sublime myself. Everything that I do isn't anything that's necessarily helped by using a debugger for something. So unfortunately, that is not something that I can help with per se. Let's see. What's the name of that package? Well, I mean, he doesn't necessarily say things a lot. I probably have a vague recollection of somebody saying that it happened. Have I mentioned that, what with doing live streams and videos and stuff, I often don't go to bed until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then I wake up at 6. I'm going to pretend that gives me a pass on stuff like this. Graphical debugger for Sublime Text using the debug adapter protocol. Oh, I probably should have done that. It's not going to show up in the list now. Should have done this part first. Using package control, run install package. Done. Okay. This project attempts to match Visual Studio Code debugger fairly closely. Well, I don't use Visual Studio Code, so that doesn't necessarily help me. Pre-configured debuggers. Which one of these debuggers are you trying to use? One of my main problems with stuff like this and LSP is the relative ease of use or lack thereof in getting stuff initially set up for the general user. I know LSP is doing a lot of work in that regard with the helper packages, but I think there's general issues with having to know how to set up various server type stuff and configure a package to use it when you're perhaps not familiar with that sort of thing and you just want stuff to work. Can I do this without actually starting anything? Oh, well. Requires a Sublime project. This is already pretty complicated. I'm imagining that the trickiest part of this whole operation is determining which one of these things that you need and installing it. And there are a lot of those. So if they don't have really clear instructions or such, it's probably not the sort of thing that could be easily walked through. And we are precariously close to the end of the stream here. What language is it that you'd like to try to debug? Hang on, let me switch to water for a second here. For that, I'm assuming thus. Does this have a nice README? No. Yeah, see, that doesn't necessarily help anybody. Yeah. And again, for LSP, specifically in Sublime Text 4, where the functionality of the LSP package is greatly enhanced by a lot of the new APIs that have been added specifically for the purposes of making LSP work better. If we were to look here, for example, and pick LSP, there's a fair number of servers that if you needed any of these, like if you needed LSP for an Angular project, or the one that I've played with a little bit is HTML and Python. There's like a Pyrite in here. The way that this is set up, this is very, very foolproof. Install LSP Pyrite. Everything just works out of the box, and then you can tweak config if you need. And it includes like linters and such as well. So it is my go-to recommendation for if you want code intelligence, you want LSP. But if you want any of the items that aren't in here, for example, there's no LSP ClangD here. If you wanted to do something with C++, that one's not done yet. But I know they have plans to make these helper packages a lot easier for that. And as basically a free volunteer thing, without a big company like Microsoft backing behind it, not too shabby the way that it all works. I mean, I don't use it personally, but also I'm just not used to that level of code intelligence. I think I was mentioning it in the Discord the other day. The thing that annoys me about completion systems in general, which doesn't happen in Sublime, is it. Like in Visual Studio, for example, as I'm typing practically anything, it's popping up a box, the autocomplete with various things that I might be interested in seeing. And it keeps injecting them when I don't expect it to. I want to just keep typing, but I get to the end of a word and it's like, well, I guess you wanted to inject the snippet for a for loop or something. And then like I have to go back and clear stuff out. It takes more time than it actually saves. Well, we could just see if you wanted to do something like that. Let's do this. Do I have something JavaScript related? Maybe. Let's see. Let's install a package. I don't have it installed right now, I don't think. Well, come on, man. I just did this a second ago. Package control. Get your crap together. If you don't already have a Sublime Text license, by the way, did I put a dot in front of that? I didn't. The bot might respond to that. I don't know. I probably set it up. I'm currently giving away licenses. Let's say we install LSP, like so. And then we install, let's say, LSP. What was the one that we played with before? Let's say Pyrite to do stuff with Python. And then we go to this Python file and theoretically magic stuff happens. Didn't have to do anything. Go to the definition of that. There's an issue with this. Edit is not accessed. No, it's not, but it kind of has to be there. And it doesn't know anything about these because this is a Sublime Text plugin. But, you know, we could also do stuff like that too, right? Like we could rename this. And theoretically, it probably does something. I don't know, I mean, I would have expected it to. It didn't. that sort of thing. Pardon me for bumping the microphone again, by the way. But yeah, it's getting it set up like that. Okay. There's varieties of those. Now it's mad that I'm not using it, I'm assuming. But there's a lot of documentation on this bad boy. And there's some the magic there. Use up down to navigate. Doop doop boop boop boop. That one, for example. And then do some stuff. Say it's not something that I personally use, so I can't show off the features to their greatest effect. But you saw how easy it was to get it to do all of that. Unlike the debugger one that requires installing extra stuff. I'll remove that for the time being. And there's also, if you're in the Sublime Text Discord, there's a dedicated LSP channel where the developers of the package hang out, and you can pick their brains, and they can give you all the information that you could possibly want to know about this and how to configure it, including being given the magic to make it be quiet about these items that it doesn't necessarily know about because they're part of the Sublime ecosystem. Yeah, it uses the exact same servers as Mike is saying there, as VSC uses. So there are some that are already in the list here. If we did that again, these are the ones that already have convenience packages. If the one you want to use isn't here, that doesn't mean that you can't use it. For example, there's a LSP server for Lua. It just means that they haven't gotten to the part where they package it up in a nice, easy to deploy thing. You could install that server and start it running, and everything just goes. I think there's like a connect to server or something. I can't remember exactly what the thing was called. It was a couple of streams ago that we played with it. And yeah. Oh, there we go. The website for LSP has guides. Oh, right. Where's the we can do this. Cover packages. Always a good point. So there's this, and the homepage is on GitHub, is it? I thought they had a documentation pajiggy here. Let's see. Thus, lsp.sublimetext.io. Should have known. So far, as of earlier today, I was mentioning earlier, I mean, did everybody on the internet try to enter 14 times? No. But currently there are 58 people vying for a copy of Sublime Text and 13 vying for a copy of Sublime Merge. Over 119 and 33 entries respectively as of sometime earlier today when I ran the magic script that pulls down all of the relevant data. And as far as growths are concerned, in the last week, subscription counts on YouTube have gone up by 47, 90 new followers. The link has been clicked close to 500 times, and that's just for the version of it that's actually tracked. I've seen people tweeting and retweeting the overall giveaway one that doesn't have any sort of tracker on it, and I'm too lazy to look at my webpage referral logs to see. And exactly 2 people have thumbed up something on Reddit because Reddit refuses to allow me to share that post in any way, shape, or form for reasons I do not understand. And you can do that once per day and there's still one more week going. So if you have more chances to enter in there in order to win. The way that it's currently going, that may not have been originally clear to people at the very start. But it is exciting to see. I've been just sort of spending the end of a day sitting on the couch with the dog in my lap, scrolling through the Twitter feed, seeing the stuff that people are saying about Sublime Text and stuff is like super awesome. And again, this is the documentation for LSP. I'll even throw this in the chat because I have that power. I don't know why nobody else does. I'm totally cool with it, but the gods of YouTube have decreed that only I shall share links in my chat for reasons known only to them. But there's a lot of cool stuff in here related to like language servers. And I think, for example, one that we played with on a previous stream, which there should be a playlist linked down below for Sublime Text Live. We played with Lua, if there is one in here, and I'm sure there must be. Well, we installed this one and got Lua stuff working just as an example of this. So there's a lot of servers that are available that they've talked about here. They just don't have helpers for all of them yet. Now imagine if you're in the market for something like that, they'd probably accept a PR to make everybody's life a little bit better. As we like to say in the open source world, PRs welcome. This particular thing, and I already had that open, right? I can't remember where this was asked. It didn't seem to be in the forum. And I don't know that this is necessarily helpful to anybody in general. But the thing that this guy wanted was that the control up and down arrows. Oh, actually, the control up and down arrows scroll the view, as we can see there. But when it goes like that, the cursor stays on the current screen. This implements a drop-in replacement for that command that does the same thing, but it doesn't move the cursor. It leaves the cursor in the current location so that you could scroll down to look at something and then push like left or right arrow or do the Control K, Control C command to center the cursor in the window to get back to where you were if you just wanted to scroll around. I personally would use something like the symbol list to jump around or get back to a particular place, or maybe a bookmark, but I don't really do that very often. But this is an example of another simple example command, but we'd have to look and see where exactly that was, if that was the forum or Stack Overflow or the Discord. Could potentially be Stack Overflow, in which case they're a lot trickier to find overall. But let's say we want to keep that one. This is one that inverts the text that's currently selected. Is there one of these built in? Might be time. Could be handy. Somebody asked about this question. I think there may already be something in the menu that does that or something. I just have a vague recollection that somebody asked about it and I wrote the plugin to do it, and then Ashwin said, or you could just blah. But I can't remember now. It's been a while. Not listed in there anyway. Could be where exactly that came from. It does show an example of modifying the selection, which is always a good thing to have in the scraps repository. Testy test. Oh, hey. What was this one? Oh, yeah. This is an example of something that is not currently done, but It's based on a package that I created for Sublime Text back before there was official integrations between text and merge, to be able to open a repository in or open the repository for the current project in merge. Now there's a command built in for that. You can just go, like open git repository. But when the first builds came out, that wasn't set up yet. So I had a simple package which would do that. And in order to do that, it needed to find where the root of the repository is to be able to open that folder. And this is more or less the thing for finding it. It would cache the results. And I was working on something, but I can't remember what. But this is already an example somewhere, so I don't think we need to keep that one around. That other thing is already there. And the last thing is this one. This was definitely something that somebody asked. I cannot remember where. We'd have to look and see. But I believe the idea is the guy wanted to be able to execute a build system and have it automatically self-terminate after a set period of time if it didn't already finish. Impatience being what it is. I can't remember. It might have been something related to competitive programming. And knowing that if something's not done in a certain amount of time, it doesn't matter how long it's going to take, or something like that. Competitive programming pops up fairly often on Stack Overflow as the reason why people want to set things up. There's two versions of this. If you're on Sublime Text 4, you do it one way, and if you're on Sublime Text 3, you do it another way. And I haven't actually tested if this still works in most recent builds, because this was a little ways back. So we know it could have been anywhere in the last year or so based on the fact that it's a Sublime Text 4 related thing, right? In Sublime Text 3, let's see, what do we do here? We get the timeout, we run, and if there's a timeout, we set something to execute this after the timeout is done. And if the process is still running, we kill it. Nice and simple. In Sublime Text 4, things work a little bit differently. So it still needs to set the timeout for timing out the build, but it also needs to know if it's complete or not. So there's a slight difference to how the exec and the async command work. I think that might be interesting to keep too. And then the last thing in here, do we look at this one? This was something that was written for somebody that I'm going to say that this is something that I wrote for someone on Stack Overflow that never actually accepted the answer. They decided to do something else instead. Where did it come from? Who can say? The idea is that, at this particular point, if we ran, say, insert to column, like so. I'm assuming we don't have to provide it a column. It's going to default to like a ruler. Then the cursor jumped to there, and there's a bunch of spaces in here now where there wasn't before. I can't remember why it was that he wanted the thing, though. But you can go to rulers. You can set it to specific things. Maybe handy for something. I don't know. I'd have to look and see what it was that the guy actually wanted it for, which requires finding the actual reference to the thing. But on the whole, tricky business indeed. And that is like all of this stuff. We actually looked at that one, but we didn't do anything with it. The only thing that we didn't look at was this one, which I skipped over. But if we were to actually edit it, pick the right thing, genius. This is an example of Something that we worked on in a stream a long while ago. The idea being that, and I don't know if there's other setup that's needed for this. We can give it a try. Oh, it needs an example of inline CSS in something, and I don't know if I have an example of that. Mariana user, for example. Say there was some sort of pop-up CSS in here. Now this is actually smart enough to know that this is CSS. Color schemes may or may not be kind of wonky right now based on stuff that's going on. But if we were to look at this sub CSS command, I think is the magic of this. So let's see. That is a text command. Now there's some subtlety to how this is actually supposed to be tied up. There's definitely supposed to be key bindings for this, but we could say view.run command sub CSS like this. And what we end up with is a view set to CSS. It's kind of cut off on the bottom of the screen there. Hang on. Let's move that up a little bit so you can actually see that. This is now a CSS view, and if we were to look in this original file, there's this little marker marking out, telling us that this is a CSS region that's being edited in another tab. And we can put some cool stuff in here, like we can say the body has a background of red or some color of red, and let's say a links have a text color or something. I guess I'd just be color. Showing ignorance of CSS because I'm not really a visual person, or blue, for example. Now the idea behind this is that there's supposed to be a key binding for whatever the magic command here is. Update CSS source, I believe, is the magic of this. So note that that is what it looks like there. This is what it looks like here. We could say view.run command update CSS source, and this file is modified because the CSS now has the stuff from this tab crammed inside of it. So the ultimate theory of this is that if you were to use something like this, and this could be used for theoretically anything, not necessarily just CSS, but this was just a simple proof of concept, all you have to do is select the text of the thing or trigger it from inside of a context menu. It opens the CSS out here in a nice, easy to look at thing. Like maybe we wanted the color on this to be red, and we want it to have a border of 1 pix solid green or something. If you wanted to, you could add that directly in here, or you could do that, and it does all of that work for you. And it could theoretically be smarter about it by compressing out white space that isn't technically needed if there was something that could beautify the CSS. That is yeah, there's a bunch of things that this could be handy for if you have data that's all crammed into one thing. Even some cases where you have HTML that you're printing out from one language to generate stuff. Maybe that's just some of the hacky stuff we're working on. It was something that I worked on in one of the live streams on the other alternate channel while I was streaming there. So if you watch all of those, you could see how this was all implemented. Now, the magic of this, of course, is that, yeah, you would select the text. There was probably an item in a command in the context menu, and there was a key binding set specifically on this for the save key, so that you would hit save, and by saving the file, it would go and update this one over here. That's something we definitely want to keep. I don't know that it's going to end up in the scraps repository, mind you, but a few of these will. So that is something that actually might happen in one of the Twitch streams that I do. I'm not entirely sure. going over these things is actually something I was going to do in a Twitch stream last week or so, but we never actually got around to that very thing. But chat is missing from this window, but we can bring that back. We can push this button like so and make this reappear in theory, or maybe it's just broken forever now. There we go. My finger is kind of dry when it comes to stuff like this. That's going to do it for the stream. We actually went a little bit long. I will be on Twitch tomorrow and Friday, possibly Thursday as well. We're working on some bot integration stuff and getting precariously close to a version 1 that's at least good enough to be able to deploy to my server so we can work on some other cool stuff, maybe even some games. One of the things we covered on one of those streams was a clone for Dragon Warrior that I was working on some number of years ago that uses literal NES music and some sprites borrowed from other versions of Dragon Warrior. So it looks quite authentic. That's all we're going to have for this one. Remember, use the buttons down below to thumb, subscribe, and share. Ring the bell notification icon to know when more live streams become available, when videos become available on the channel. And there's a link to my Discord down in the description as well. At least I hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to feel like a fool right now. And go and add it in later where you can join into the Discord and continue the discussion there. We can see you here. We can see you on Twitch. Don't forget the sweepstakes for getting yourself one of 3 licenses to Sublime Text and one of 3 licenses to Sublime Merge. Both pieces of software we're looking here today are running until next Monday. Each day you can put in a tweet, use the information that was shared there. It's also available in the Discord. It's also available under my username on Twitter at ODATNerd. Each tweet you do, the first one per day, counts as an entry into the sweepstakes. And thanks so much to everybody for watching. We'll see you in the next one. And remember to have a sublime day.